All right, so if you are like me and you have bought a set of Pannier Racks like that to put your different type of luggage on there besides the Vario, this has to come off. Your racks are actually going to mount to this, and the configuration is slightly different on the GSA than it is on the GS. Okay, so I've gotten to this point, and this is probably one of those things that you're not going to see on the Toratech video because it doesn't have these if you watch the Toratech video. So I'm going to basically give you a brief explanation of how I've gotten to here and what you need to do from this point forward. And I'll keep chopping this together as I do it so that you don't have to sit here for a long period of time to watch me do it. But as with the Toratech website, you're going to take this bolt off, and that's going to open this up to where this comes off, and then you have to disconnect the wiring for this and tuck it, right? But with the top case from BMW, which has this, I didn't want to go in and take these caps off to get this piece disconnected because I don't plan on removing this. I just needed it out the way. So taking these 4 bolts off the top, 6 bolts, 1, 2, 3. All right, once you take those off, then this piece won't lift up until you get to 2 T25s, which are here and here. Okay, once you get those two T25s, this lifts up. This is still tethered. The only way you're going to get this disconnected is to take this top piece off to get to the clip that's in there. That to me is a lot of overkill. This actually sits perfectly back here. I don't think it's going to fall off, and I really don't think it would damage anything if it did because everything is kind of tied in place. Anyway, that's going to get you here. You got to get to this, and that's how you do it on the GSA. Okay, I have seen mentioned someplace else about needing to remove the passenger side foot peg. And the answer to that on this particular model, the 1300 GSA, is no. So that might be another difference between the GS and the GSA, I'm not sure. So you don't have to do anything with the exhaust, and you don't have to do anything with the passenger side foot peg, which I've already loosened up because I was going by what I watched. I'll just have to make sure I retorque everything. So I hope that helps you a little bit. And then another difference on the GSA is you get to here and there's no way to disconnect this from here. I think you could probably get away with taking those Torx bits out of that and removing that from the backside. Not gonna do that. I'm looking for a way to disconnect it. So to get to that, it's 4 bolts that holds this piece, and underneath this piece is that thing that looks like a hockey puck right there. This is the puck that your key needs to be close to in proximity so that your bike will unlock. So if you're ever looking for that, you need to use your plastic backup key, which I've had to do several times. With the 2 seats on, if you take that plastic key and hold it directly above this, in between the 2, don't drop it. I put a piece of zip tie on mine. Wedge it between the seats and then hit the start button and you'll be able to start it. It's different than the location that it was on the GS's. On the GS's, it was further back and you put the plastic piece underneath the wheel, underneath the fender. Here, it's got to be right here with the plastic key. Not the same with the $550 key. This just has to be in proximity, so it's not as close. All right, so that's different. So then that's got me into here now, and this is where I've been trying to get the whole time, is trying to get to where I can disconnect this. So I'm gonna have to lift this whole assembly up and see what happens. Let's see if I can bring you in on that. Maybe. I'm just gonna wing it here and hopefully I don't drop my camera, and hopefully you still see it. We're just gonna try to wedge this in here somewhere for now. All right, so let's see if we can pick this whole assembly up and what happens. But I'm going to set this aside and try to pick up on this whole assembly to see if it all comes as one or if it has something to do with the plug on this top. It does, because it's still binding there. But by lifting this should give me access to this plug to disconnect it. I'm sure it's pretty simple. It's just a matter of figuring out how to push the pins to get it to release. So now this has been disconnected, but this is still attached to the wiring harness. So this is going to have to be taped to preserve it, to keep it from getting any moisture in it. So there's the FYI on that. Eventually all that's going to have to come off, because I've got the Denali B6 to put on, and I'm going to have to take all that off to get back there to wire the B6 in. And you know, to be honest with you, I might try to figure that out in this video, so that I can give you an idea of how to remove that if necessary. But for as of right now, I'm ready to put my Toratech racks on. I can go right ahead and start going with it. I think what I need to do though is I need to wait on the racks until after I figure out how I'm going to route the B6. So I'll get back to you on that. Okay, so if for some reason you need to remove this complete assembly because you're putting on an accessory brake light, something of that nature, maybe you're modifying turn signals, okay? There's 4 plastic covers that are over the top of this, and they have the T25s. They cover up these pockets here, and they cover these bolts, which are T30s. You remove those T30s, and when you lift it up, this is the piece right here that I believe goes to the rear, and it may also go to the brake light. I'm not sure on that, okay? But it's in this general vicinity. So I think I'm right when I say that I've got that off now. You disconnect this, this allows you to remove this as one piece. I leave the bolts in place. There's rubber washers in them, which is actually pretty cool. So I don't want to disturb anything if I don't have to, right? It makes it a lot easier to remember where things go, and you just leave the bolts in. Probably not a bad idea to take pictures. In my case, just revert back to my video if I ever get in trouble trying to put it back together. So now, for all intents and purposes, this piece now is now ready to come off. And this makes it naked in the back. I don't know why else you would need to take this off other than to get to the stuff that's underneath. I'm not aware of an aftermarket. I don't know that you would need to take that off if you were going to install a long rudder's top plate. But anyway, I've gotten here now. So the only thing left is to snip this, and now this is completely held in with just wires. So they're going to be push connectors. They're going to be on these, and I think those are just fuses. But anyway, we want to take those off. We want to cut that zip tie, and now this piece is able to be removed. So this won't be necessary for the install of the luggage racks, but it will be necessary for the install of the B6. And I'm going to be installing that using Lone Rider's CAN bus, the one that everybody's used to hearing, but theirs is from Lone Rider. So it's got the white wire to control both the lights off of one circuit. We'll get to that later on in another video, but anyway, just want to bring you up to that on 1300 GS. That's what it's going to take for removal of that, if you're going to do it. And up to this point, I'm not scared of removing any of this, because there's no cutting or splicing of any wires, which is an absolute do not on a BMW. Because a BMW is CAN bus equipped. If you start getting into cutting wires, there's a good possibility that you're going to have major problems with the charging system on the bike. So you always want to be into a plug-and-play situation using something like the HexScan. Yeah, that's what I was looking for, and mine's from Lone Rider. So it's still HexScan, all right? Fantastic product. All right, back to you in a bit. Okay, still working towards the V6 install and getting the racks on, but I'm slowly but surely figuring things out. So I have figured out a way. Just gonna cover my license plate. Basically, remove your license plate. There's 3 T25 screws back there. Loosen that. That loosens this as well. It's the cover for your rear sensor if you have it on your bike, the rear radar. But once you do that, there's a plug that's located. I had the rubber plug that's here. Remove the rubber plug. There's a diamond grommet there, and I'll get in there good so you can see it. I drilled that out to give it enough room for the Denali plug to go through there, which is this in diameter, and that's a drain port for any condensation or any water that might be a touch that might get in this. So it's not going to hurt anything to pop a hole in there. And there's the 3 screws that I was talking about that you back off from the other side and remove your license plate. So now I've got a clean way of mounting the Denali where it needs to be. Yeah, pretty cool. All right, let's I get it assembled, I'll come back to it. Well, there's a wrap for today. That's the Toratech mounted with the V6, and the other side doesn't say anything in the manual about the spacers, different spacers for the previous model. There were 6, and that's where they go. Other than that, I mean, that's really it. Looks pretty good to me. All right, look forward to the next one. That's when we'll be talking about Lone Rider.